into flames.
You could just see some really big flames going off and just a lot of smoke.
One of the truck drivers was killed. The burning fuel damaged the road. The cleanup will last late into the night. So the freeway is closed in both directions, northbound from 118th South exit to the I-215 South junction, and will remain that way until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Southbound is closed from the I-215 South junction to 90th South.
We have team coverage of this big story for you tonight, but let's begin with Coco Nebaker in our exclusive KSL Traffic Link Center. Coco, it must be tougher than usual on the roads.
Yes, calling it a mess might actually be an understatement. Fortunately, the word is getting out and people are avoiding this area of I-15. Let's get out quickly to our traffic link cameras. First off, a look at the accident site, a live picture at 8400 South and I-15. You can see here crews are working on cleaning that up and repairing the road. There is some slow and go on the west side belt route as southbound commuters at 3200 South are finding they can no longer access I-15 and getting off at Redwood Road, and that's backing things up to about 35th South. And finally, at 5300 South and I-15, you can see a little bit of a backup as southbound commuters at the bottom of the screen are being forced off. This is where that freeway closure begins on the south end. Now, with the freeway closed, motorists are looking for a different way to get home. News specialist Richard Pyatt is keeping an eye on the alternative routes. Richard, just how jammed are they?
Well, Coco, if anything, the routes are jammed, certainly, but if anything, the afternoon commute is certainly being lengthened by this accident. You can tell that the traffic, well, there's a big bus there now, but traffic is stop and go on State Street, just as it is on every other alternative route on from I-15 tonight. Let's take a look at some of the alternative routes we're talking about. A major problem spot is I-215. Near the interchange of I-15, it has been an absolute nightmare all afternoon. And of course, I-15 itself is completely empty right now because it's closed both ways, as you pointed out, and a huge hole remains where that fire happened. Here's State Street where we are. Traffic was stop and go almost all afternoon from the afternoon commute until now. It's starting to light up just a little bit. Now, the wreckage itself is just now being removed, or was just removed about an hour or so. It took a rather large amount of time for them to do it. It was a very difficult and arduous task, obviously, because things are quite a mess out there. Now, obviously, as we just showed you, road crews are hard at work trying to remove the wreckage and to repair the hole that was left by the explosions and fire. News specialist Pamela Davis is standing by with that story. Pamela?
Well, Richard, it's going to be a long day and certainly a long night for cleanup crews. You can take a look behind me and see a lot of the trucks and dust billowing up there now. Basically, what they're doing is loading the wreckage of the junked automobiles and tanker trucks and bringing them out here. People describe this scene as a fireball, a volcano, and cleanup crews knew as soon as they saw the mess this morning that this was going to be no quick cleanup job.
It took fire crews more than 2 hours to put out the flames, and once the smoke cleared, it was obvious there's a lot of repair work to do.
The road is very badly damaged. The heat from the fire was very intense.
How much of the road was damaged? We're told several hundred feet on each side of the accident. The northbound lanes were asphalt, put down as temporary pavement. They're completely gone, UDOT crews say, and they'll have to be replaced. The burned-out remains of the tanker trucks and other vehicles covered a lot of the concrete pavement. Crews anticipate they'll have to replace a lot of that as well.
After the accident, there was a small fuel spill, and crews had to use absorbent pads like this to soak up the fuel out of the rainwater. What's interesting about this is that they don't soak up water. Watch this. Put it in, and the inside stays completely dry. Now, if there had been gasoline in this puddle, that would have been absorbed.
The Utah Department of Transportation and Wasatch constructors are pooling their resources now, combining crews and equipment to get the road fixed as quickly as possible.
It will take us well into the night to replace this, but the freeway will be open at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Now, if you're heading to work in the morning and you are thinking about trying to take I-15, you might want to tune your radio to 1300 AM. That'll work best if you're in the area of about 17th South. Updates are broadcast on that station, and in case anything goes wrong and there's any delay, you'll hear it on that radio station, of course, here on Eyewitness News as well. I should mention, though, that the police are looking tonight for the aggressive driver, they say, who reportedly might have set off this accident by cutting off one of the trucks. All they know about him is that he's a man who drove a small silver car. So if you were anywhere near the vicinity of this accident and saw anything like that on the highway, you're asked to call police tonight. Back to you.
Pamela Davis, thank you.
I seen this big smoke and fire.
An impatient driver starts a horrifying chain reaction accident.
Just like a big bomb set right off. You could feel the heat. Boy, it looked like the fire of hell.
And with the main highway in the Salt Lake Valley closed in both directions, commuters have to find a different way to and from work. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shauna Parsons in for Hope Woodside tonight.
And I'm Bob Evans. Complete coverage of this incredible mess first on Fox 13. We'll start with details of what exactly caused the accident this morning. We'll also check in with Dave Canlin, who has some alternate routes since the interstate is closed tonight. And we'll take a closer look at this construction-plagued section of highway.
One man died in the crash that involved 4 semi-trailer trucks and several other cars. State troopers say it appears a driver who was trying to avoid the clogged freeway started the accident. Cars had backed up at the 90th South exit. A driver apparently pulled back into traffic to avoid the line. A dump truck hit the brakes to avoid hitting the car and was hit from behind by 2 other dump trucks. Then the gas tanker slammed into the trucks. After the flames burned out, the destruction became more apparent. The paint melted off a Ford pickup. It was one of several vehicles that were finally towed away late this afternoon.
Has a tough time with that. We don't like to sit there and wait in traffic, but it appears that that may be the thing that set up this crash.
The driver of one of the dump trucks was killed in the accident. Police say he is 37-year-old Sean Nilsson of Payson. Several other people are slightly injured tonight.
For the last 13 hours, the main police evacuated businesses within a 2-block radius. For about 2 hours, the fire burned so hot, crews couldn't get close enough to fight it, and they wanted to make sure an explosion didn't send metal flying into nearby businesses.
Built, and with the several explosions that went along with the trucks that were on fire, they just wanted to make sure everyone was out of the way.
One of the small children in this nearby home saw the flames through the window and told his mother. She says her neighborhood was never asked to evacuate.
That stretch of I-15...
A tanker truck loaded with gasoline erupted into flames in the chain reaction accident today around 8:15 this morning. At least 3 other large trucks and numerous smaller vehicles also burned in the fire, a fire so hot it melted some of the roadway.
Late in the day, crews were still trying to clean up the burned debris. When the smoke had cleared, the destruction was obvious. It happened on southbound I-15 near 8600 South. Our team coverage tonight begins with news specialist Angela Ann.
Those who saw this fiery explosion at first had no idea what blew up.
All you could see was just a big old black smoke going up and flames about 50 feet up in the air. A lot of sounds like explosions, a lot of noise.
The explosions came from a tanker carrying an estimated 9,000 gallons of gasoline. The Highway Patrol says the tanker was the 3rd vehicle in a line of trucks that slammed into each other. The driver who was killed, 37-year-old Sean Nilsson of Payson, was driving the cement truck, 4th in line. 4 smaller cars were also hit, but the driver who caused this accident is yet to be found. Investigators say that driver swerved out of the exit ramp at 90th South and back onto the freeway, cutting off the first semi, which barely escaped the deadly chain reaction.
We do believe that it was probably an impatient driver is going to be the thing that set this up.
The intense heat from this explosion caused severe road damage to the freeway. The Utah Department of Transportation says it must now replace sections of both north and southbound I-15 where the collision occurred. Meanwhile, the Highway Patrol is asking anyone to call if they saw a small silver car weaving through traffic near 90th South and I-15 just after 8 o'clock this morning. Angela Ann, KSL News.
You're looking live right now at the massive project underway at the scene to try and repair the freeway. You can see why the crash disrupted traffic flow through the Salt Lake Valley all day long. Even as late as the afternoon-evening commute, traffic was still a mess.
This portion of the freeway, I guess, Ed, will remain closed through the night, right?
That's right, Dick, even though UDOT and Wasatch constructors expect to finish this repair probably around midnight. The problem with this kind of freeway accident is the damage. It's extensive. It's not just the fire and heat. Gasoline and diesel fuels, when spilled, are extremely damaging. In fact, diesel fuel is a solvent and literally strips away the asphalt. So crews here must pull everything up down to road base. But before they can do that, they have to follow guidelines established by the EPA and the city-county health department to make sure hazardous spills are cleaned up. Early this evening, this shovel was scooping away soil along the side of the lanes and dumping it into a closed container dumpster. Any soil saturated with fuels has to be removed. But John Leonard with UDOT says asphalt was not the only concern here.
Any of the concrete that was out there that got exposed to the heat was damaged, whether it was the concrete roadway from the old northbound I-15 or whether it was the Jersey barriers that we used to protect people from going into other lanes.
Leonard says UDOT will make sure the roadway is stable and safe to use before it's reopened tomorrow morning. Again, UDOT and the Highway Patrol is urging motorists to drive patiently and courteously, no matter what kind of predicament they find themselves in.
This accident could have occurred anywhere. It just happened to occur in the construction zone, but we need to be courteous everywhere.
The trucking industry is also issuing a caution to motorists tonight. If you swerve or you cut off a trucker too quickly and he is carrying in that truck a full load, it's extremely difficult to stop, and even if he can stop, he often will lose control of the rig. Again, as you can see now, they have basically stripped away the asphalt down to the soil. They've removed contaminated soil. Now all that's left once they remove this debris is to relay some new pavement. So again, should be reopened at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, well in advance of when commuters have to go to work. Back to you, Dick.
All right, very good, Ed. Thanks. A 10-year-old Salt Lake
time tonight. Now back to today's terrible accident on I-15. One man is dead, and the freeway still closed tonight. It happened near the 90th South off-ramp, an explosion and fire that could be seen for miles. Brian Malahy live on I-15 where that accident happened. And Brian, anything new on the driver that might have triggered all this today?
Mark, tonight police are still looking for the driver of a small silver car that left this scene.
The smoke was so thick it was hard to tell how high the flames were going. You couldn't see the wreck inside the flames and smoke.
Hanno Chandler was on his way to work right next to the crash when it happened. A 2 News camera captured time-lapse pictures of the smoke as it moved across the Salt Lake Valley. Here's what investigators think. A car headed southbound gets into a line of cars to exit the freeway at 90th South. At one point, the car moves back onto the freeway. It slows way down or stops, maybe looking to get back in the exit line. A truck swerves and misses the car. A second truck hits the first. A third truck with gasoline tankers crashes, and then another truck hits. With freeway construction, a wet road, and a car in traffic, truckers may have had little or no chance to avoid the chain reaction. The driver of the last truck died, unable to get out of the fire.
There was some current concern about maybe getting inside and getting some people out until some explosions started going off, and then everybody was just trying to get away.
There was no way you could have rescued anyone given that.
No, way too hot, way too much fire.
People left their cars to run from the fire, which was so hard to fight.
They couldn't even get close enough with the fire trucks to even hardly hit it with the water. It was so hot, and the flames are so big.
Only after a couple of hours did the fire cool, but the closed freeway meant a clogged State Street.
We're from Spokane, Washington. Our kids live down at American Fork. Sandy?
You ever seen traffic like this?
Not at all.
Not
at all. But you guys got some challenges.
This accident may prompt more questions about the actions of one still unknown driver, and perhaps about safety in freeway construction zones. Does it make you fearful to drive
on I-15? You bet. If there's a problem on there, there's no place to go with the barricades on all sides. You're trapped.
Tonight, the driver who died, the truck driver, is identified as 37-year-old Sean Nilsson. He's a husband and father of a number of children. His trucking company this evening told me the hearts of its workers go out to his family. The accident is something which has grieved them all. Mark?
Brian, a lot of work on the highway still to be done. You can see it there behind you.
Yep.
What's the status of the freeway now?
Well, workers right now are continuing throughout the night to repair a section that was heavily damaged during the accident today, and they're going to be going for much of the night, perhaps on until about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. UDOT is still saying that the freeway will open at 6 a.m., so you'll be able to drive on it. But until then, you'll have to take alternate routes, State Street, Redwood Road, Bangerter Highway. Back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Brian Malahy, live tonight on I-15.
Kimberly, huge repairs are needed on this section of I-15 right behind me, and as you can see, they are working on it right now. We're told the asphalt and concrete were damaged, traffic was backed up all over the valley, and worst of all, a Payson man lost his life.
Witnesses say there were 15 explosions after the devastating I-15 crash. Flames shot into the air 150 feet, and black smoke billowed for miles. "37-year-old Sean Nilsson of Payson died in that fireball. He was the last truck in the horrible pileup on southbound I-15 right by the 90th South off-ramp. Investigators say it appears an impatient driver swerved from the exit lane into traffic. One semi swerved and missed the car. The next slammed on the brakes, trying to avoid the first. Then a tanker coming up behind with 5,000 gallons of gasoline hit his brakes, sending a fourth semi right into the tanker.
It was pretty scary. I kind of seen a light flash before my eyes. I feel bad for whoever was in that truck because I don't think they made it out. Big fireball, and if you would have went into that fireball, I don't think you'd have a chance.
10 hours later, all that's left is twisted metal and a freeway with extensive damage.
The fire was very hot, and it not only damaged the asphalt that we placed down for the temporary roadway, but also damaged the old concrete from the northbound lanes of traffic.
Speaking of traffic, the I-15 shutdown snarled it all over the valley. Getting home tonight was a waiting game.
There's nowhere to go. It sucks.
The worst part is investigators say all this could have been prevented had a driver just been patient.
Somebody wanted to be somewhere and pulled a unsafe, reckless maneuver, and subsequently we've got an interstate freeway that shut down for probably 24 hours. We've got death and destruction and property damage.
Police are looking tonight for what witnesses say was a small silver car that may have caused the accident. They say if you know anything at all about this, give them a call.
Nisha, the big concern right now is rush hour. Are they saying officially when they're going to reopen the freeway?
Randall, the word right now is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, there was already a scheduled closing for this section of the freeway, supposed to go till 6 tomorrow. So they're saying 6 a.m., hopefully open in time for the commute.
Oh, commuters do have their fingers crossed. Thanks, Nisha. Of course, many witnesses are... Thanks, Nisha. Of course, many witnesses are saying they can't believe more people weren't hurt in this crash. Just minutes before the accident, the I-15 southbound exit was backed up as people waited to exit at 90th South. One of those waiting was 29-year-old Hunter Chandler. He was sitting in his new pickup truck when the semi-trucks and fuel tanker skidded right past him and then hit each other.
Flames were immediate. I just had enough time to step out of my truck to see if traffic was clear for me to back up. And the flames had just started, and then the time I stepped out of my truck to look back, the flames got so intense I just kept walking.
Good for him. Chandler says the heat and flames were so intense, he thought at least 10 people would have suffered serious injuries.
So, recapping our top story, a fiery crash closes down I-15. Portions of the interstate will be closed until at least 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. One person was killed in the crash, 37-year-old Sean Nilsson of Payson. Police are still looking for the driver of the car that caused the accident. We have some bizarre breaking news.